The Pistons are the basketball champions of the world.
Detroit, it's time. It's playoff time, Detroit. Let's go to work.
Shout out Detroit. I got to buff up, you know what I'm saying? Detroit, I'm all the way in. Detroit Pistons, I'm all the way in. Let's do it.
Hello, Pistons fans. Welcome back to another episode of the Buffs On podcast. Fresh off of the win against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm here. Coni's here. Gabe is here. Parents have to admit, he is sick right now. Unfortunately, he cannot join us today. So us three will be taking over again right after this win against the Thunder. So we're a bit high on Pistons juice at the moment. It's been a decent week of Pistons basketball. We've seen some new faces. We've seen some alright basketball. How are you guys feeling right now? Connie, will go to you first.
I'm actually feeling very good. You know, this season started with like hope, despair, anger. Kind of went through the stages of grief sort of for the year, and I've come to acceptance. And I have no like illusions that we're gonna make like a second half season push and something's gonna happen. But I have genuinely been like these past couple weeks, I've genuinely been enjoying tuning into these Pistons games. Like it was not that in the start of the season. It was some of the ugliest basketball. But these ones, even the losses, we lost to the Wizards and the Bucks this week, and before that, that game against the Timberwolves too. Those were like pretty fun games.
Honestly, the Wizards game too was fun.
I don't know.
We played the Bucks well. I agree. That was fun.
But I thought we played the Timberwolves pretty well too. Jaden Ivey went nuts. I don't know.
Yeah.
Pistons team has turned a corner in terms of watchability. And I really hated watching the games for a while there, but like I've kind of enjoyed tuning in again and seeing stuff.
It's funny.
Does that equal when Battling Livers left the team pretty much, the watchability, and we have spacing on and speed and 3-point shooting?
It's an interesting correlation between the loss of Battling Wizards and the Pistons looking like a basketball team. Yeah. Surprise.
I was watching that Pistons Wizards noon tip off, obviously, and there were times in that game I thought to myself, man, should I really be doing this right now? I wasn't having fun watching that game. But that one did seem like an exception to me because, yeah, right on the spot, honey, we've been playing some pretty fun basketball. Staying in games, we played the Bucks really well. So well they even had to fire their coach because we only lost by 9. We beat the Hornets, so a 500 week, with the win against the Pistons, with a win against the Hornets and the Thunder. And I think we'll touch on them soon, but some really incredible performances from some individuals on our team. Cade's been in and out of lineup. I know we'll touch on that in just a second, but Gabe, I want to just give you opportunity to express how you've been feeling about the team in the last week or so.
Yeah, I couldn't watch this game. I was out doing some errands because I thought, it was just going to be an absolute destruction. But we played, if it's anything like those Bucks games we played, the Hornets games, it's just fun. When Killian isn't on the court, it's fun watching like 5 players who can kind of, do everything, as in score the ball, as in shoot, as in pass, and not play slow. And I think that's really fun, especially when Mike Muscala, when he's out there compared to like Wiseman or Bagley, and there's not just a constant post up, like that place on the court we can't go to offensively because they're there. It's really nice. And he can grab rebounds, which is also fun. He can grab defensive rebounds, except, of course, against Brook Lopez at the free throw line. That'll never happen. But I think, for me, the standout guy this week is Bogdanovic. Like, he's just such a good player. He was kind of off today, but still, he was positive plus minus, and he's just a shooter, and I think a team is going to overpay for him. That's my main point. And Jaden Ivey is, I think, especially when you compare this game to the last game of how Jaden Ivey was used, it's just like, I know the fans keep talking about it, but why is this guy just parked in the corner when Cade plays? Do you have an answer for that one?
It makes absolutely no sense to me. We'll get right on that, but let's dive into this OKC game a little bit. Boyan had a monster his first half really. He had 15 of his 17 in that first half, and really gave us a big boost when we went down double digits early. But realistically, when we're talking about the Pistons versus the Thunder, there's only one place to talk about, right? And it's Jalen Duren's monster stat line. He racked up 22 points, 21 rebounds, and 6 assists. Shot 9 for 13, his first 2020 game. Like Special K said, it's the first of many because he just seems to inhale rebounds on both ends. 9 of those 21 rebounds were on the offensive end. Kept numerous possessions alive. Showed that passing flair. I have never been so satisfied with Jalen Duren on both ends in a basketball game before. He was an absolute monster. We saw that passing flair. And a big thing we've seen from Duren recently is a little bit of a face-up game. He popped a couple of those 12 to 15, 16 footers. He's been doing it recently, and he's been knocking it down at a pretty good rate, I think. And there's been more opportunity for him in general. We see him operating in the post a lot. The Thunder really lack big men, and their one big man just had no chance of guarding Jalen Duren because Chet Holmgren's probably lost about 100 pounds losing 100 pounds on Duren, and Duren knew that, took full advantage of him. Going back to college, Duren was doing that. He likes that matchup a lot. And he just kept feasting.
Chet's gotten the best of him a couple times as well.
But not today. Not today.
No, Jalen Duren for sure gets up for this matchup. He looks forward to playing against Chet. Impressive with the 6 turnovers. 6 assists is only 1 turnover. We've been very critical of Duren on the offensive end because though he is an offensively skilled big, there's definitely room to grow in his game, and he does commit a lot of turnovers. But tonight was really clean. He had the one free throw line pull up jump shot that I thought that got me real excited because it looked smooth, it looked nice. His face up game, all of this game, his offensive game is coming along in leaps and bounds. He's become he's busting out so many different skills. His footwork around the basket, which was a complaint I had for him earlier this year, where he would just get the roll pass and he would just jump up and try to just go over or through the next defender, and a lot of times it just doesn't work. Now he works in these spins to the opposite shoulder where he's just keeping his footwork alive and just moving right past the guy because his touch with both hands around the rim is fantastic. His footwork is fantastic. His touch around the close mid range is fantastic. Offensively, Duren has turned into a very useful center.
He loves that little fake right, go back, hook over the left. He hit Brook Lopez with that a few times. Yeah, I thought the thing that stood out to me, him against Brook Lopez, was he couldn't do anything to stop Brook Lopez just grabbing offensive rebound after another. But then you compare it to Chet, where it's the complete even opposite look from that. He had that one, I think it was early in the first quarter. He dribbled up on Shea and then he took a little one hand push shot from the free throw line. I really hated that shot. He missed it by a mile. If he's against Shea, he tried to handle by him. That's one of those where you just go Giannis, one dribble, take 2 large steps and go at the rim. I think that's the main thing he can do. I know we've talked about this before, Coni, especially when he fades on those shots where he could just go through people. And I think again, he's 20 years old. That's a thing he'll learn. Yeah. Aside from that, what I really enjoyed, Monte Morris playing at point guard, over Killian Hayes especially, who has had his minutes reduced severely, even though he did start, just because Cade was out. But Monte Morris, when he shoots the ball, I kind of expect it to go in, which is really nice. He's a good player, and I think as the season goes on and he gets more into his rhythm, he'll continue to play over Killian. I think to only be a positive thing. And shout out Marcus Sasser.
I want to go back to all these veterans we have, just based on a trade value thing in the future in this podcast. But you mentioned Monte Morris, always been a low turnover guy. big reason as to why we won tonight. We only had 9 total turnovers versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. And that number was at like 7 or 6 until crunch time. We had a few silly late turnovers, but Monte Morris obviously playing a huge role in that. I don't want to say it, but not having Cade played a huge role in that. But having this support of veterans, Mike Muscala's in here now. Alec Burks has really found his groove. Danilo Gallinari is here. It's helping this team lower their turnovers. And you can just see how Monte Morris takes care of that ball. Huge reason as to why we're able to win. But let's go into Sasser, huh? He's been really, really good. Another 15 points tonight. He's had a couple 20-point outings this week. It's really becoming clear that Killian Hayes needs to be out of this rotation, guys. He can play on certain nights, I'd say. Perhaps when we're resting some guys or certain matchups. But I don't know what Sasser needs to do to be ahead of him in the pecking order. You look at that game against Washington when we had a full team, nobody on the injury report. And Sasser was a DNP. Really concerning when Killian Hayes was still getting out there and even came back in during crunch time. It seems to me like Sasser's always been ready. And I think that had to be the plan when you draft a 4-year guard for him to be ready, not to assign him to the G League. I think he's more than ready to get solid minutes. I want him 20-plus every single night, and I love that he was able to finish the game tonight. What have you guys thought about Sasser's play recently?
He's been better. I don't.
And Coni, I believe you've been on record for saying you don't know about Sasser being an NBA player, huh?
Not a huge Sasser believer. He's had some nicer games this past week. I just don't. The 3-point shot to me is not consistent or quick enough to be like real impactful yet. I think the goal when the Pistons are fully healthy is to you should have them play together a little bit, but Cade and Ivy, in my opinion, if you're not gonna play them in dynamic ways together, should be staggered as much as possible. So those point guard duties should almost entirely fall on those two. With Monte Morris playing, he should definitely be the third guard. He doesn't suck. He's just pretty solid at all these things. He keeps the ball moving. It's amazing how much better the offense looks with Monte Morris as backup point guard as compared to Killian Hayes. Truly insane. I think Hayes shouldn't see the floor. And I think Sasser should be the 4th guard in the rotation. Like, get some stuff, but, like, I'm not a huge Sasser believer. He was alright. He's been pretty good. He knocked down shots. He's small, and his jump and his release is pretty slow, and he doesn't shoot it off of catch and shoots. And that's why, like, I'm not fully on board.
So, like, is it just a size thing, or what would Sasser need to do to convince you?
Hit more threes.
All right.
If you're going to be a small guard, and not like a crazy playmaking small guard, like those shaken to mid-range pull-ups, turn those into 3-point pull-ups, and become like Javon Carter is like a small guard, feisty defensive guard that he's a really good 3-point shooter, and like that's what if Sasser's out there, that's what I'd like him to be.
I think he can shoot like that. It's just the way he's used for another player who I don't think is used in the right way. But like against a team like the Bucks, which kind of I agree with you, he shouldn't play over Monte Morris probably. But against teams where they're slow, like the Bucks who just play drop with 2 slow guards, like he was eating against that. He has a really nice floater.
Oh,
and
the Bucks, the goal should be to attack Damian Lillard as much as possible. Which
exactly.
He's really good at that. He does cook Dame every time.
Yeah, and he's like people have trouble staying in front of him. Like he's shifty and he's quick and he has that little that long in and out crossover that he does. And I agree with you, he just needs to take more threes because I do think he can shoot it. Like his college numbers were really good.
I just want to get more up. Just shoot more of them. Like there's he just pump fakes through the ball movement. If he's got 5 feet of space, just put that thing up, man. That's what I want to see out of Sasser. I mean, over Killian, no diggity doubt.
100%. But I just want to see him get more, almost like catch and shoot threes up. I thought there were a few opportunities today he could have immediately gone off the catch and shoot, but he likes to sway side. He likes to rock him to sleep a little bit. But like you said, shoot more. He's at 39.2% on the seasons from deep. On our roster, that's godly. But in the entire NBA, that's really solid, especially as a first year guy. So I want to see more of Marcus Sasser for sure. And before we move on to a different topic, I want to touch on Duran again. Because we saw some flashes of stuff, like we talked about in the way he got his buckets today. When this team is fully healthy down the line, when we're theoretically a competitive team, is he going to be contributing in the points tally in those ways, you think? Is he going to be taking mid-range jumpers? Is he going to be working in the post when theoretically everything is clicking? Or is he just going to be a dump-off guy?
I think he is more than a dump off guy. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think like the main goal is going to be like during post ups, but you're going to give him one at the beginning of the game, like probably to like get his juices flowing. You're going to dump it to him if he's got like Stu does this a lot, smaller guy on his back. Maybe there's a cross match on a break. You feed those. Sometimes he's, I think, just going to have those grab and go buckets. I think that can be an effective part of a good NBA offense is when the big man just like, if he can do it, grab it, go, get a lay. Like, I think he can be more than just a dunker spot guy on a good team. I think. I mean, what would really have to change for him on a good team is what he does defensively, not offensively.
Yeah, I didn't want to complain today, but I'm not a huge fan of his rim protection. But I'm in a no complaint zone
It's
today.
pretty bad.
It's
pretty
a
bad.
lot just like effort almost, you know?
And he's
Like I feel
I
like he
agree.
could get to shots and he could contest shots, but he just kind of stands there.
he's also in the wrong spot a
Yeah.
lot, like to
But
contest.
I'm not super concerned about that. Our team is atrocious defensively as a whole. And for like him to, I mean, Stu is like our defensive anchor guy, but for them both to be like so young and not have a vet like, I don't know, Tyson Chandler, like kind of teaching him the ropes, which I think we should look at next free agency, get like a JaVale McGee type of big who can just like teach these guys how to play big man. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Ben Wallace, perhaps. Some more
Ben
work with them.
Wallace.
Not on the team, but like just do work with him. Like
I
this
don't
guy
know.
just knows how to position. And like we've talked about this comparison a lot. He looks a lot more like Bam, I think, every day. Um, Bam didn't shoot when he came into the league, and now he's like a really good like 15-foot jump shooter. Duran, like he's looking more and more like him, I think, every day. And I think if we can even touch that offensively, let alone defensively, we're in a great spot. And that's where I do think like we saw Cade again have 7 turnovers last night. And yes, he just came back from injury, but still, I think, like you said, Connie, when we like drafted Asar, you kind of want as many creators that you can get on a team. And if Asar kind of becomes like a 3 assist guy, if Duran can like run some plays out of the post for him where he just like can pass, can abuse a mismatch in Ivy as well, where Cade doesn't have to be that guy like a Luca because he can't score 73 like Luca does. Like he's just not that guy, which is fine. He's still a fantastic player, but I think if we kind of do a 4 players who are almost like lead initiators, I think that would be a cool new look in the NBA, and I think that's kind of where we're trending.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see that as well. And Gabe, you talked about Cade not being on, so let's segment to another part of this podcast. And it's a really big talking point for all Pistons fans, really, right now. And that's the way Cade Cunningham is being used. He missed 8 games due to the left knee. We saw Jaden Ivey be really dominant on the ball. And we saw the ball flow around as a team more. Cade comes back. Gabe, like you said, 7 turnover night in his first game back. Still looked pretty decent out there, I'm not gonna lie. But then you see him be a late scratch tonight when it looked like he was gonna go. So first of all, I'd like to say I hope everything's alright with that knee of Cade's. But then you look tonight and Jaden Ivey was a monster. Jalen Duren was a monster. There was touches, the ball was moving around, not at all a static offense, and it's almost been heliocentric at times with Cade Cunningham as the lead ball handler. What are we going to do in the future? Assuming Cade suits up for the next available game, we go Cade and Ivy with Bojan, Stu, and Duran, assuming everyone is healthy. Is it going to go right back to the same offense where we see Cade have 5+ turnover games every single night, where it's all being ran through him? I don't want to keep talking here. So Gabe, I don't know what your opinion on the matter is. I think we all should we're all in the same boat here when we say Ivy should have the ball more. But is it as simple as that? Are there other things you're looking for, the way those two players are used?
I think a good comparison, I just read this on Reddit. Cade in like a Paul George type of role where he is a secondary creator because he can score on pretty much anybody in the league. And I think he's just overtasked when everyone is they're staring at him, waiting for him to make a play. Ivy, like, he has amazing chemistry with, Jalen Duren. He can break down offenses, and then he takes some like boneheaded plays and shots, but he's also a sophomore and he's learning, and I think we're seeing more and more where we just let him play and he usually, like, good things usually happen. And if Cade is a scorer who can like attack like a rotating defense, he will like debunk Paul George, those type of guys. I think that's what's really ideal for him. And I think, it can only be so long before Monty kind of realizes what everyone else has been screaming at him for for the entire season.
One would
And
think that, huh?
we just try something new. Just try it for one game.
Essentially just running, like using Cade as a more of an off-ball guy. But how I asked Gabe the question, Connie, I'll ask it to you right now. We all want Ivy to have more of the ball and Cade to have less of it, or I think that's the general consensus. But it's not that easy. Are there other things you're looking for, or are you just straight up saying put the ball in Ivy's hands?
No, I mean NBA offense. It is all like it kind of surrounds the high pick and roll, and I think to get the best out of both of those guys is you both give them shots at the high pick and roll, which is why I honestly say to stagger them as much as possible. But I do think they can play together because the other thing about an NBA offense is it's usually never just one thing. Like, I mean, obviously it was that, like the Houston Rockets, for instance, James Harden brought the ball up every time they set a high screen, they did their thing. But oftentimes it's like there's like three actions that get to the final action where you actually just play the offense and you take some sort of disadvantage. And I think both Cade and Ivy can be that for each other. Like, you do an initial action with a Ivy Duren pick and roll. Ivy hits the paint. There's switches. There's scrambling defense. Then Cade gets the ball. Maybe he has, through a switch, somebody else on him. You run another pick and roll against a defense that's now not set up the way they want to be set up, but they're set up the way that they had to be set up after stopping an Ivy screen and roll. And you just run the same thing again on the other side, and then Cade is attacking um, an easier groove rather than a fully set defense. I do believe that we need to be getting away from Cade dribbling the ball up the court. Because when he dribbles up the ball up the court and then they just go into the pick and roll, sort of like exactly like how James Harden did it on Houston, where it's just the whole time down, the defense knows what's going to happen and they're setting up for it. They're like, this is going to be a Cade pick and roll. We're going to load up this way. Da 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 da. If they use all these playmaking skill that they have on this team, if they use both these playmaking guards to like shift the defense to where when the action actually happens that you want to score on, that your final bid is, just use it to throw more variation in. So it's not just this is going to be a Cade pick and roll. I think you're going to be using Cade pick and rolls because it'd be stupid to not have Cade pick and rolls when that's one of his big things. Just do it in a less obvious way. Don't beat the door down with a Cade pick and roll. Give me the lock and then do a Cade pick and roll through an open door, which is what you can do with a lot of playmakers.
I think you're speaking for a lot of Pistons fans here. But is it 100% on Monty Williams, the blame in this situation for the way they're being used? Or can
it's got to be at least like 85.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Like, you're just plopping Jaden Ivey in the corner, and you're having him again just wait for this pick and roll to happen, or you're plopping whoever's not doing it. It's always just there's one action. It's very little time that there's multiple actions on a Pistons offense.
And
Yeah.
and do you think using him off ball in a way would, I don't want to say maximize him more, but do you think he could be way more productive off the ball?
Cade?
Yeah, like I'm just talking purely in terms of scoring the basketball. You think it would increase his point production being off the ball more?
You know that play we always run for Bogey where he like comes up and he gets two screens and then has the
Yeah.
ball?
Mm-hmm.
Um, we should do that for Cade because then he is at an advantage and he can attack downhill and he can score. I think Cade would probably score about the same amount if we play him that other way, but he'd be more efficient and he'd have less turnovers. Like if you look at like who used to be the point guard while Booker was on the Suns before like Beal and KD, was it like Tyus Jones or something?
I feel like random
No.
guys. I don't know if they had a consistent.
Yeah, but like he was never the lead point guard, but he was scoring like 40, 50. And then that season where they transitioned him to point guard, he was still scoring that. He assisted more and he had more turnovers, and he was less efficient. I think it's the exact same thing as Cade, but in reverse, where like just put up another player on him who absorbs, like you said, Connie, that primary set defense, and then let him attack through, whatever, a moving defense, a new look, a different guard.
I want to touch on another player and his play recently with I guess some more opportunity that's been happening, perhaps with Cade out, and that's Asar Thompson. I think almost since day one, we've been asking him to be more of a roller in this offensive system and sitting in the dunking spot. And I couldn't even use all the fingers on my hands to count the number of times he's been used as a roller in these last few games, and that's been great. And we've seen him finish some alley oops as well. The defense is there, obviously, it always has been. But I've been really excited with the offensive contribution of Asar Thompson, even hitting a three every now and then, even though he's still airballing some open ones. But I just wanted to touch on how excited I've been to see him as a roller, time and time again. Especially with the new addition of Mike Muscala spacing the floor at the five. It just gives so much space for Asar to attack, and he's been hitting that role. Have you guys noticed that recently, and how have you felt about it?
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do when you have NBA spacing and an NBA like when it's not the worst shooting out. Like this is the most obvious outcome that your guy that is a great cutter, space taker, natural thinker of basketball is better when there's an open court and space to move on the offensive end. I really enjoyed him. Sort of a resurgence past that slump he had. He's really nice with Mike Muscala. I've loved the lineups where it was like him. Well, sometimes it was Hay, but him and Ivy, and then the three white guys. Him, Ivy, Muscala, Bogey, and was it Gallinari? I think it was
Yeah.
Gallinari one time, or Burks, or just three shooters, and you have
Jasper with that lineup is nice, I think.
attack downhill, and then guys that can shoot. I've loved the situation a little more for Star Thompson. And it just proved more like that Monty Williams interview in the beginning of the season where he said he doesn't really believe in the analytics and, you can play an old fashioned game. Kind of dumb.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. We just talked about Mike Muscala. Let's talk about our three new additions, even though one of them has been here since the start. That's Mike Muscala, Monte Morris, and although we haven't seen much of him, Danilo Gallinari shot the ball well. Muscala and Morris seem established in this rotation. Morris has been everything he's advertised, a low turnover guy who can score the ball quite efficiently. Mike Muscala's come in, and I've been pleasantly surprised with him. I didn't think he was as valuable as a player he really is. Not getting much minutes in the latter half of his NBA career until now, but shooting the ball really well. I've been pleasantly surprised how he's been doing on defense. He's not the quickest. He's not very athletic, but he finds a way to have an impact out there. Big fan of his Super Mario tattoo. I saw it for the first time today. He has out there on his back. And like we just said, Mike Muscala's helped the rest of the team with his spacing from the five. It's a real privilege. When we go Stu at the five, he still doesn't have quite the respect like the Muskie does. I'm really pushing for that nickname, by the way, guys. Nobody said anything about Muskie or the Muskie, but I'm gonna be referring to him as that constantly.
I'm pretty sure that
impact.
is his nickname.
It is, right? I thought so. I just haven't heard anybody use it.
People say
How have you
Muskie
felt?
Moose.
How have you felt about the Muskie's impact in his first few games here? Now that you've gotten a bit of a look at him.
Pleasantly surprised. He's a try hard on defense. He tries to get the blocks. Uh, yeah, he's just a guy that doesn't suck. It's enjoyable to watch.
Valuable to have, huh?
He's surprisingly like big. You know, like he does the things that you need a center to do that Bagley and Wiseman didn't do. Like he grabs a lot of defensive rebounds. And yeah, like yeah, especially with like him and Gallo, they just like they're vets that know how to play. Surprise, surprise, that helps. Like they're past their prime, especially Gallo, but he still shoots. Like he's a great spacer, and yeah, he's atrocious on D, but like so is the rest of our guys. So at least like have that spacing out there.
Why haven't we seen more Gallinari? Is it just because of the defense? Because he gets his 9-minute spurts and he makes 3 3-pointers and we never see him again. Why is Gallinari not touching the floor at all?
Well, from what I've seen, he's cooked athletically. He just doesn't have it. Yeah, that would be my main thing.
I scratch my head at times when Kevin Knox is having a tough time out there and it zooms in on the bench and and Joe Harris and Danilo Gallinari are sitting there. Yeah, they have their problems on the defensive end, but they provide so much spacing and veteran leadership.
Well, Joe Harris, I mean, when he's out there, he's invisible. Like, I don't want to hear it about Joe Harris.
I thought Joe was doing all right. I think
he's not providing us spacing.
No, yeah. And I think another thing, like we're known to treat like players well who like come here. I think like he doesn't want to play heavy minutes. He wants to be healthy and just like get paid and move on probably. So I think we respect that, and yeah, he plays all right, but not too much.
Are there rules about trading a trader? Like, can we still move Gallinari or no?
Yeah, we can.
Let's segment over to trades. Because when you look at the roster, there's a lot of veterans on this team. And realistically, you don't need a lot of veterans on a 6-win basketball team. So we have guys like Alec Burks, Monte Morris, like we just talked about, Muskie and Gallinari. Am I missing some names here? Bogey, a huge name. Trade deadline is very soon, about 2 weeks away, February 8th. Are moves going to be made? I think we're all anticipating moves be made. Of those veterans, how many of them realistically do you still see here? Because we've talked about how deep we are with Sasser. We know about Monty Williams' wild obsession with Killian Hayes. Is there going to be room for Burks, Morris, all of these veteran guards, or are there going to be moves made? Gabe, what do you think? Like, if I just give you the list of Bogey, Burks, Morris, Muscala, and Gallinari, how many of them are still going to be here after February
8th? I'm going to say 2 are going to be gone. I think it's going to be Bogey and Alec Burks. Like, I keep hearing on, like, the low post, on the starters, on other, like, NBA podcasts, teams want those guys. New York really wants Alec Burks. Sixers really need a guy like Bogey who can be like the fifth option, and he'd be amazing at that. Lakers need him. There's a lot of good teams that need bench scoring on good contracts, and that's what we have. And I think, you know, they can only call so many times before, like, are they really that much of an asset towards us winning games when we have 6 wins on the season? So, like, trade them, get some assets, whatever that may be, and we move on.
Coni, 5 veterans on this team in Bojan, Burks, Morris, Gallinari, and Mike Muscala. Following the February 8th deadline, how many of those 5 veterans are still here?
I think Bogey is gone, and I think Gallinari is gone. Bogey, the way he's playing, there's teams out, like, I think he should, I don't know if you said this game, but he should go to the Sixers. I think the Sixers should use their use what they have and go after Bogdanovich and Bruce Brown. They can do it, and they can have those salaries. That would be so good for them, I feel. I think that would give them exactly what they need, which is good role players. Gallinari goes somewhere for like a second rounder. I think he's going for a ring chase, and like
Sure.
that's what Gabe said. Probably why he's not playing very much. Just keeping him safe, keeping him healthy. I think the rest of these guys. I think uh, Weaver has some opus to keep this team at least fun, like we're saying, fun to watch for the rest of the year. He already failed this season, but I don't think he wants to fully tear it down and just make a doo-doo product for the last couple months because that'll just ensure his firing probably. So I think we keep some of these.
So we talk about the veterans. Are other people on the block, you think? Like, are there other people you think will be moved? Because we have
Hey,
confirmed, we've been confirmed to have conversations with both the Chicago Bulls and the Atlanta Hawks. The conversation with the Bulls surrounded around Zach LaVine, where they were asking for Bojan Bogdanovic plus one of our core four pieces, which is obviously Asar, Duran, Ivy, or Cade. The Atlanta Hawks called, and they want Asar Thompson and Jaden Ivey for DeJounte Murray, which by all accounts, I think we quickly shut down.
yeah,
We're not trading one of our core pieces. Connie, you said Killian Hayes. Is there any, like, do you expect any other younger guy to be moved on this roster? Because you could easily
Wiseman.
say Hayes, Ivy, but how? How are
I
you shipping them to another team?
I would say Hayes, Wiseman as contract pieces added to like Bogdanovich, probably Bogdanovich. I hope they don't go after Levine and Murray. Both of those guys just scream Blake Griffin trade to me. They really do nothing to your real ceiling and just
Jeremy
give
Grant.
them an opportunity. Hmm?
I will keep beating that Jeremy Grant drum.
All right, then what are you giving up for him? One young piece, two young pieces, a young piece plus a pick? Wait, there's going to have to be quite a sacrifice to get in Jeremy Grant, who just signed a big deal under a long contract.
Yeah, I don't know. Bogdanovich for salary. I don't know what else you need to make that match. Killian Wiseman, and then some picks. Maybe Marcus Sasser. Maybe Monte Morris.
I don't think they're accepting that. I think they're going to need one of our four young guys, and they're probably going to I would assume they want a big man, based on they already have some overlap in the guard position there.
Wiseman?
Yeah, but like an NBA player. I bet you they say Jalen Duren, and they're
Yeah.
stubborn about
Then we hang up the
No.
phone.
I don't know. I don't need
it.
Jeremy Grant's huge contract. Not necessary.
I don't think it's necessary because I think Isaiah Stewart is an animal. And Gabe, you talked about earlier in this pod, I'm going to go back to it, running a play, how we use Bogey for Cade, where he gets two screens and he gets the ball in a wing position. So say we do trade Bojan Bogdanovic and we slot in Asar Thompson in the starting lineup for him, something we saw at the start of this season. What if we do find a way, if Monty uses Cade off ball more in kind of a bogey role with those two, with Asar out there with him, where Cade is getting put in situations to thrive more, and Ivy can be the ball handler, and Asar can be the ball handler, and Stu can.
That would not be a situation to throw. We've seen that lineup. We know
Yeah,
what
but
they'll
we've seen
do.
it.
They're just gonna
We've
jump
seen it.
on Cade off ball. There's Asar's not shooting, Duran's not shooting, Stu's not respected from the 3-point line.
I
Like
think
that would
Stu
be
is
the same
becoming.
thing that we've been complaining about for so long.
But we saw that with. I thought we saw that just with a straight up heliocentric offense. Like, what if we're running these off ball screens and stuff? And the attention, if you put
No
attention on
shooting.
Cade, Ivy will sprint to the basket and get by anybody because he's capable of
But
that.
then there's just a guy waiting because nobody's guarding us. Like we saw this. There's no shooting. The lineups don't work. They lost 28 straight games with this doo doo.
So is it just what's the deal with the star then? Like forever bench player?
Unless you can
If he and
actually
Duran can't
shoot it.
coexist?
I think you can't. I don't think him and Duran and Stu can play together.
What's your take on? It's probably going to sound a bit silly now. Starting Isaiah Stewart at the 5 then to have the spacing.
I don't hate it. I mean, I'd rather start Duran and then like Asar at the 4 or something.
Hmm.
I don't know, man. I don't want to see that. Like,
Ooh. Well, as we're winding down this pod, anticipating we do a pod 1 week from now on February 5th, the roster could change by the time we make another podcast, which is exciting. But it also brings me to the question: is there anything in the final games? We're 46 games in, 6-40. Is there anything that can happen throughout the rest of the season for you to say, all right, I'm okay with this season. I'm satisfied. What would you need to see in the rest of the season? Gabe, I see you sitting up. You got something to say on the map?
For me, though, what immediately came to my head was to go 500 from here on out. And I know it's
Whoa.
so out of the realm of like possibility, but like that's just that's pretty much what happened last year with us. That's what happened to Orlando last year. It's just a ray of hope, and then you go into the summer. It's like, oh, look at us. We need a full season of this. We need that. We need that, and we're just like we leave on a good note, pretty much, because then we have hope for next season. If it just like continues to be bad and we win like 5 more games the rest of the year, then there's just no hope.
In terms of the win total, then, do you have a number in your head?
that would
20.
be there's that'd be 24, right? There's 36 games left.
Yeah, to get like 20 wins would be nice.
Okay.
Stay bottom three,
But have
Just
that optimism going into the next season.
My
Yeah.
goal, making
Yeah.
it happy, would be not to be last in the East. I think both Charlotte and the Wizards are catchable. Some might say it's the wrong move, draft pick and such, but I mean, this draft kind of doo-doo anyway. And the odds weren't in our favor when we were last, regardless. So, catch the Wizards, catch the Hornets. We're 3 games back right now. I think
Okay, so those are overall win and team goals. Is there individual things you'd like to see from the players for this to be a successful season, or does it have to be in unison?
Killian Hayes no longer plays. Marcus Sasser plays. Um,
I agree.
if Jaden Ivey puts together some stuff, like his post All-Star game stats are like 24 and 6 or something, that'd be cool.
yeah, and just him like we've said a million times, him playing point guard pretty much when Cade is out there. That's what I just like. Once that change happens, I don't think we'll ever go back to how it was before. But yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. And I kind of just want to see more of what we've been having recently. I want to see Duran getting this opportunity when fully healthy to show a little bit of his game, to face up a little bit and post up a little bit and show that passing touch. I want to see Asar rolling. I want to see Jaden Ivey on the ball more. That's pretty much all I would say. I mean, I think, 20 wins would be a pretty decent way to end it. And that's kind of a weird thing to say that 20, that'd probably be the best 20-win season considering the way we started. But I would just love to see the growth of Jalen Duran to really convince me that this guy has like serious all-star potential. And like I said, give me 15 to 20 wins. I honestly, considering how we started the season, wouldn't be able to complain that much. Guys, we've got 3 games next week. Is there anything you want to touch on before we close out this podcast?
let's see. We're playing. Who are we playing? Cavs,
We've got
Clippers, and Magic.
right on. We've got the Cavaliers, the dark horse contenders, the Clippers, and then the Orlando Magic.
I'd like to see one win next week.
Yeah,
I think
I think Cleveland is a hell of a team nowadays. Donovan Mitchell's playing at a really good level. I don't think we stand a chance against the Clippers. But
No.
another Sunday matinee a week from now against the Orlando Magic, and we seem to be up for those. So I'll say 1 and 2 this week is my prediction.
I go 0-3.
Gabe 1 and 2, 0 and 3.
I think we fight the Clippers though.
I think if the Cavs are cold, like if they just decide to miss some threes, then we can win. Of course, that's how it is with all like 3-point shooting teams. But I expect. Yeah, let me go 1-2. I expect a win, either against Cleveland or Orlando.
Hey, and as we made this pod, we just knocked off the team with the best away record in Detroit, the second best record in the NBA. So I think if we're considering that and our recent play, I think we're allowed to sign off again by saying, throw the Buffs on Detroit. The future is bright.